It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing when you let your nuts hang.
Part 1 of who the fuck did I invite to my wedding. Okay, so this past April, my husband and I got married. We eloped in Alaska and we invited our 2 best friends. So at the time, my now ex-best friend was engaged, and my husband's best friend was freshly single. He wasn't. So leading up to the wedding, at my bachelorette trip, our mutual best friend and I were both telling her, like, hey, you know, said guy is very flirtatious. He is single right now, so like he obviously, you know, is probably going to be very flirty. It's going to be the 4 of us. We're going to be in Alaska for a wedding of all things. So, you know, just a heads up, he's probably going to be really flirtatious. Keep in mind, this mutual best friend of ours has dealt with this guy in the past. It wasn't anything serious, but they did, you know, have dealings with each other for quite some time. So yeah. However, I did also tell her, like, look, I did speak to him and I told him that you are engaged. You are not that type of girl that would, like, ever cheat on the person that you're with. So, like, I told him, like, hey, please don't try anything. Like, the last thing I want is for you to make her uncomfortable, and we all have to be on a trip together for a week in the same house. And, you know, we were there for our wedding, so I just didn't want it to be uncomfortable at all. So anyway, leading up to the trip, she did take our warning, by the way, and she was just like, oh, like, I'm not worried about it. She was like, but if he flirts with me, I'm gonna flirt back. She said that word for word. She said, because our mutual best friend said, what are you gonna do if he flirts with you? So I was like, okay, whatever. She was a flirt anyway, but again, she was in a long-term relationship. She was engaged at the time to someone that she had been with for 8 years. She, to my knowledge, had never cheated on him in the past, so, you know, I didn't really think anything of it. So leading up to the trip, we arrived to the airport. Her fiance drops her off at the airport. Me, my husband, and his best friend all rode together. We took an Uber to the airport. So she meets us, like, after she gets out of TSA, she meets us at the bottom, and, you know, I introduce everybody. Well, it was just the 2 of them that hadn't met, but I introduced them. My husband and his best friend go to Starbucks to get us coffee. The first thing she says to me is, why the fuck didn't you tell me he was so cute? Again, I told her, and keep in mind, like, my husband's best friend, I have known him as long as I have known my husband, and I met him when I was 15. So he's my children's, like, godfather. He's family to us. Him and my husband own a business together. Like, he's literally family. So, you know, she goes, why didn't you tell me how fucking cute he was? And I was like, girl, like, I did tell you he was cute. I did tell you that he was gonna flirt. And I told you he was single. So, like, I was like, what are you talking about? I did tell you. So anyway, she was like, oh my God. She was like, no, like, I wasn't prepared for that. And I was like, all right, bitch, well, buckle up, because we're going on a week-long trip. So boom, everything's cool. Everybody's vibing. My best friend and my husband's best friend are both very easy to get along with. They're like the type of people that you can kind of throw them in any crowd and, like, they'll be fine. Like, get food when we get off the plane. We check into the Airbnb. Alaska is incredible. It's beautiful. It's like, it's breathtaking. So we are all, like, pleasantly surprised. We're just getting amped. We're like, this is gonna be like, we're excited. So we go back to the Airbnb. We all start drinking. We're vibing. And yeah, like, that first night, it was, like, really cool. Now going on day 2. So on day 2, we explored for a little bit. We got some games to play back out the house. We got Uno. We love Uno. So, like, we got Uno to, like, play while we were drinking and everything. And, we were up until, I kid you not, like, 3 o'clock in the morning, like, going shot for shot, playing Uno, giggling, chit-chatting, whatever. So my best friend at the time was like talking to my husband's best friend, and she was like being secretive, and like I didn't really know what was going on, but she said like, don't be nosy, like it's a surprise for the wedding. So I was like, okay girl, cool, like I'm gonna mind my business, whatever. So that night when we finally went to bed, it was like 3 a.m., my husband and I, and she told me that she had to go meet up with my husband's best friend to chat about some stuff for the wedding. Keep in mind it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So I was like, girl, okay, but I was like, be careful, like don't be going in this man's room at 3 o'clock in the morning, and like if he pulls something on you, like don't be surprised. It's 3 a.m. like you can't talk about it in the morning. You couldn't have talked about it earlier. Like why are you waiting until 3 a.m. and specifically until we're laying down? Okay, so yeah, anyway, she ended up going down to his room because there were 2 rooms upstairs, the master, another bedroom, and then there was a 3rd bedroom downstairs. His bedroom was downstairs, so, and her bedroom was upstairs right beside ours. So she goes downstairs, whatever. I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, okay, like if it's a surprise for the wedding, like, you know, I'm not going to be too pushy. I don't really know what it is. So like, you know, I just said, okay, like I didn't really chop it up to anything because again, this is the type of person, like I never ever would like think or assume that she would cheat on the person that she was with at the time. So the next day rolls around, everything's cool. Keep in mind, this is now the day before our wedding. Everything's cool. We went out, we explored. It was like a great day or whatever. We get back to the house and I was telling her that hair and makeup was going to get here at 7 a.m. And she was like, yeah, no, like you need to be in bed by 9 p.m. Her and I were going to sleep together that night because obviously like my fiance at the time and now husband, we weren't going to spend the night before our wedding together. So she was like, yeah, no, like we need to make sure that we're in bed by like 9. We had to self-tan and yeah, like all the things. She was just like, yeah, like we need to make sure that you get some beauty sleep. And keep in mind, this is the same girl who told me that when one of her friends, so she has like another friend group that I'm like not really a part of, nor is like our mutual best friend for other reasons, but she was telling me that when this other friend of hers got married last year, she stayed at her house the night before her wedding with one of their other friends. And this other friend talks a lot. Like she's one of those people, she's very sweet. She has a very kind heart, but she does talk a lot and she knows it. So keep in mind, she told me that she felt it was so crucial for her friend to get sleep the night before her wedding that she made the other friend sleep out of their room. Like she said that like the other friend heard them like giggling and laughing that night and like wanted to come in there and like she refused to let her sleep in there with them. So keep that in mind. And like my ex-best friend, like she's very uptight. Like very uptight. She's chill, she's cool, she's fun, but she's very uptight and very nitpicky about things. So yeah, anyway, she's like, yeah, we need to go to bed by like 9. You need to make sure you get beauty sleep. Like you need to be ready for the morning. You don't want to look tired. So I was like, cool girl, like you're right. Cool. We're sipping on wine. We're steaming our dresses. We're steaming the guys' tuxes. All the things, right? At this point, it's probably like 9 p.m. and my husband goes to lay down in our room, or in her bedroom. Her and I were gonna sleep in the master that night. So she goes, yeah, and my husband's laying down. We're not even supposed to be together at this point. My best friend is downstairs talking to my husband's best friend, and I'm upstairs like in the loft area, like just scrolling on my phone, chilling, like by myself. Like my family is texting me. Keep in mind, we were 4 hours behind everyone else back home. So my family's texting me. They're like, how are you feeling? Like, do you have the jitters? Like, and I was like, yeah, I have the jitters. Like, I can't really sleep. Like, I know I need to lay down, but I'm not tired. So I sit upstairs for like an hour by myself, and I'm like, I'm so fucking bored. Like, I need somebody to talk to. So I go downstairs, and the husband's best friend, his bedroom door is shut. And I was kind of like, why is the door shut? Like, I know that, like, if I'm engaged, right, and I have to be in this guy's bedroom for wedding purposes for my best friend, I'm gonna not be overly friendly because I don't want to send the wrong message. So the first red flag is that the door was shut, and I was like, why is the door shut? So I knock on the door, and then it hit me like, wait a minute, like, I shouldn't even feel like I have to be knocking on this door right now. Like, what the fuck is going on? So they're like, come in. I come in. They're both sitting on the bed. She's in her pajamas, like, and her pajamas are like, had like really short shorts, and like her legs are like pretty much open like that. So I'm kind of like, why the fuck is she sitting on his bed like this? Like, her legs were like to the point where, like, if her shorts moved like half an inch over, you would see like some coochie lips. So I was like, I'm like flabbergasted kind of. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Oh, and keep in mind, while I was upstairs by myself, that's a key part. I was writing my vows. So at this point, crying, screaming, throwing up, like, I'm really fucking getting married tomorrow, and it's really hitting me. I'm feeling emotional. I'm like kind of wishing that my family was there. Like, I'm just feeling a lot of things. And keep in mind, I just sat upstairs for over an hour, like, sitting with these thoughts by myself. Like, I'm not having cold feet or anything. I'm just feeling a lot of emotions. It's the night before my wedding. So I wrote my vows, and like, I wanted to go downstairs and like tell her my vows and ask her, like, how did it sound? But they were both like, hey, and I was like, what the fuck are y'all doing? And they were like, oh, nothing, like, we're getting something together for the wedding tomorrow. And like, again, keep in mind, I'm really trying not to question it, because the way that I looked at it is, because she was the only person there for me, I was kind of assuming that, like, maybe she felt a lot of pressure to kind of just make sure that, like, all loose ends were tied up, that, like, everything was perfect for the wedding day. Like, obviously, I didn't have, like, my mom or, like, my sister there. So, you know, I was just kind of like, wow, like, she's a really good friend. Like, she's really trying to tie everything together and make sure that, like, my wedding day is perfect. So, I read my vows to them and everything like that, and they like said that they were perfect, and I was like, okay, cool. So at this point, I'm kind of like, they're kind of looking at me, and I'm getting the vibe that like they want me to leave. So I was like, okay. So they were like, yeah, like, we're not done with the wedding stuff yet. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. I go back upstairs. It's like 2 a.m. at this point. My husband had woken up out of his sleep, and he came out in the living room, and he was like, oh my God, like, you're still up? Like, what are you doing up? And keep in mind, like, at the time in Alaska, the northern lights were visible. Now, with the northern lights, you don't see them, like, everywhere in Alaska. There are certain places where you see them, and it has to be pitch black. Like, you won't see them outside in the city because there's a ton of street lights. So my husband gets a notification because one of the locals told us about this app that tracks the northern lights in Alaska, and it'll notify you when they're near you. So he gets notified that the northern lights are near us, and it's like a 50% chance that we'll see them. So where we were staying, we were right beside this place called Hatcher's Pass. It's like a very famous point in Alaska. It's incredible. It's basically a road, and you can like drive to the top of it, and when you reach the top, you're literally at the top of a mountain. But the whole ride up there, I mean, it's breathtaking. It's incredible. I mean, it looks fake. It looks like you're watching like a cinematic movie in motion as you're driving through it. It's stunning. So he was like, But keep in mind, it's at the top of a mountain, and we went there during the daylight. It's like I think it's like 15 miles per hour the whole way up there. It's very windy, very narrow roads, and there, like, more than half of it is like avalanche risk. So you'll see signs like everywhere that says do not stop, avalanche risk, like do not stop, like keep going. So I couldn't imagine what it even would look like at night, because again, there's no lights. It would have been just fucking pitch black. So my husband's like, oh my god, the northern lights are here. Locals had told us that Hatcher's Pass is a beautiful place to watch the northern lights, but also keep in mind the night before our wedding it starts snowing, like snowing. Like, I live in North Carolina, so to me that shit was like a blizzard. To the locals it was just snow. But for me, it was like a blizzard. Like, here in North Carolina, like, you wouldn't see anybody driving in that. Like, anybody driving in the type of snow that was happening. So my husband's like, let's go to Hatcher's Pass and let's go, like, see if we can find the northern lights. So his best friend is all for it. He's like, yeah, let's go. And I was like, the fuck? Like, at this point, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like, it's 3 a.m. Like, I gotta be up in 4 hours to get my makeup done. Like, I was like, did you forget? Like, our wedding is tomorrow? Like, what are you talking about? Let's go to Hatcher's Pass. And he was like, I know. He was like, but I really can't sleep. And, like, I really, really want to see the northern lights. Like, it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance. And I was like, yes, but it's snowing and it's pitch black. Like, I was like, that's way too dangerous. Like, we're not driving to Hatcher's Pass. Like, forget about it. Here comes my best friend walking in like, oh my god, let's go, let's do it, let's go to Hatcher's Pass, let's go see the lights. And I'm like, bitch, what are you? I was like, wait a minute, is this the same girl that was just telling me that we needed to be in bed at 9 p.m. so that I'm not tired? The same girl who just told a story about how she made her friend sleep out of her room because she didn't want the other friend, who was the bride, to be up all night from her talking. So I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? And at this point, I'm seeing a ton of red flags. I'm like, wait. It's so many signs at this point, and I'm just like, she's not acting like herself. She's acting like this person that I don't recognize. I don't really know what the fuck is going on, but at this point, I'm pissed. I said, you know what? Fuck all y'all. Y'all want to go to Hatcher's Pass in a fucking blizzard at 3 o'clock in the morning the night before my wedding? Go. I was like, y'all go. I'm staying here. I'm not getting in that fucking car. I'm not going to Hatcher's Pass. And really, fuck you, talking to my friend. So she was like, no, like, I'm gonna stay here with you, whatever. The guys end up trying to go, but what do you know, they get in the car, they start driving, they realize it's pitch black in the fucking snow, and they turn around and bring their asses back home. Stupid. So yeah, now it's the wedding day. I'm feeling pretty antsy. Obviously, I've gotten about 3 hours of sleep. I'm now up for hair and makeup. Everything ended up going perfect. The day ended up really well. Everyone was there early. All of the things were there well in advance. And yeah, it was now time to go take wedding photos, do the first look, everything like that. So still I'm wondering, like, what was this big surprise? Like, what was it that was going to take so much time that you had to go in this man's room at 3, 4 in the morning every night for the past 4 days? So it's now here and everything's going well. Photos are being taken. It's time to go back to the house because it's now time for us to have our wedding ceremony. So we did our first look outside of where we were getting married. And we took photos, did all of that. It's now time for us to have our ceremony, for us to say our vows. I do all the things. We did have a live Zoom call during our ceremony. So we had to make sure that we were back in time to, like, kind of get everything done for all of that. So we're now back. It's time for us to do the vows. We get married officially, do the exchanging of the rings, we cut the cake, we pop the champagne, all the things. So after we do that, our friends then plug up the TV and they show us this video that they had our family members make for us, like basically what they would want to say to us on our wedding day because they weren't there. So yes, that was a surprise. It was really, really cute at the time. I was really appreciative of it, but I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking this probably shouldn't have taken hours every night. But it's time for us to go out and celebrate. Again, it's in Alaska, so like there's really not much in like the way of like clubbing and things like that. So like the best that you're gonna get is like a bar, right? So we end up finding this bar that was not too far away, and we go over there. All the locals in Alaska are very, very friendly. So we go into the bar. We obviously look dressed up. I'm not wearing my full wedding dress anymore. We've all changed out of those outfits, but makeup is done, hair is done. We look like we just came from somewhere. So everyone's super friendly. Everyone's asking us like, hey, where did you guys come from? We're telling them we had a wedding, yada, yada, yada. Everyone's buying us shots. We're all celebrating. It was a great night. Again, we now go back to the Airbnb. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning at this point, but the party's not over, okay? We're not done. So we pop open another bottle of champagne. We're taking shots. We're playing games, like just really all enjoying each other's company. And eventually that night, we ended up going to bed. So my husband and I went to bed, and to my knowledge, my friend went to bed as well because she went in her room, shut her door, we said goodnight, everything. Now this next day is our second to last day there. We explored that whole day. Nothing that I really noticed that day, but we did drive about 3 hours away because we were exploring. We went to this place called Seward, and when I looked in the mirror, because I was in the passenger seat, my husband was driving. When I looked in the rearview mirror, I thought that I saw them like, I thought that I saw her like maybe like touching his hand in the back seat, but I wasn't sure. And then like when
she didn't mind her damn business.
So I was like, okay, like weird, let it go. The next day is our last day. None of us wanted to go home. Like we were all having so much fun, but my friend specifically, like I remember she specifically really did not want to go home. Like she was trying to find us like a different flight to take, like instead of the one that we had the next day. Which again, all of us had so much fun. None of us were ready to leave. Like a week was just not long enough for Alaska, but nonetheless, it was time to go. So we end up going back home. We end up landing back home off of the flight. And I slept for the entire flight, for majority of it. It was an 11-hour flight. So for majority of the flight, I slept the entire time. And all four of us were sitting right beside each other. So we get off the plane. We're now back home. Her fiance is at the airport to pick her up. I noticed that she seems like specifically in a hurry to get out of the airport, and we all had some of her things packed in our bags because her bag was like really, really full, and like the rest of us had a little bit of space. So like we had some of her clothes in our bags, all of us. Except my husband. So she knew that we had her things, but like she was not even trying to wait to get her things back. Like she was ready to go. I noticed that it just seemed like she was in a hurry. And as we're walking out, she goes, yeah, like I cried the entire flight. And I was like, this is an 11-hour flight. I said, what do you mean you cried the entire flight? She was like, yeah, like I don't know, like I just couldn't stop crying. Like I was crying for the whole flight. And I was like, why didn't you like not really saying anything? And I was like, did you really not want to go home? Like what is it? Because again, she really did not want to go home. She really didn't want to go home. So I was just like, oh, like did you really not want to go home? And she was like, yeah, like that's what it is. So I was just like, okay, everything's cool. We go our separate ways. She gets in the car with her fiance. They go home. We go home. Cool. So now this is where things start to unravel. So it's now the day after we get back from our trip. And my other best friend, which was our mutual friend, she wanted to come over as soon as we got back the next day because she wanted to recap from the wedding. So I was like, of course you can come. And keep in mind, like, this other mutual best friend that we have, she wasn't not there because she wasn't invited. She just had other things going on at the time, so she wasn't able to make it, sadly. So yeah, she ends up telling me that she's gonna come over in a few hours, and she'll see me in a little bit. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's probably about, I'd say maybe like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. My husband gets home early from work, and he like looks like he's like thinking about something, or like he's kind of holding something that he wants to get out, but I'm not really sure what it is. So he like comes up to me and he sits down and he's like, look, I have to tell you something, but I really don't want you to be mad, and like you can't say anything. So I'm like, okay, what is it? And he kind of takes a pause, and I kind of like figure at this point where this is about to go. So he ends up telling me that the night of the wedding, after we went to sleep, she snuck downstairs to his room after we were already asleep. You can assume what happened. And then she snuck back upstairs the next morning before we woke up. Okay. So I'm confused. I have questions. I'm like, okay, wait. Like, obviously I want to know, like, why didn't she tell me? Because why wouldn't you tell me? Like, if you know me, you know I am not the type of person to like judge you for something like that.
You sound judgy.
Like, in her case, it was stupid, so I did tell her that. But also, I'm very much so like, look, this is your life, not mine. I have enough on my plate to be. She specifically told him, like, whatever you do, like, I do not want her to know because I don't want her to judge me, is what I was told she said. So I'm just like, okay,
but
you know what? Whatever. The fact aside that you were able to sleep in the same house as me and sneak and do this and like not feel the urge to tell me, you sat on an 11-hour flight. Do you know how boring and long that is? You sat for 11 hours beside me and you never like felt the urge to bring this up. Like, just weird. So I'm kind of figuring out like, okay, what am I going to do with this information? I knew that I couldn't say anything to her right away, and also like I wanted to give her the opportunity to tell me herself. Now granted, I did have the same thought in my mind already of if she wanted to tell me, she would have told me at the minimum on that 11-hour flight. But yeah, like we were literally on a trip for a week together. We took a long ass flight. Like if she wanted to tell me that, she would have told me already. Like that was her chance to tell me. So I pretty much had an inkling that like she was probably planning to never tell me this ever. So at this point, I'm not really knowing what to do. I'm having so many feelings. I'm wondering, how did this get by me? Our mutual best friend is on the way to my house. She gets there and I'm like in a fuzz. I'm like, I didn't want to spread anything or say anything, but at the same time, I needed like someone to talk to about this. So she gets there. I end up telling her what I knew, and she had a ton of questions too. We both just had a ton of questions. I didn't know how I was gonna go about it, but I knew that I wasn't going to say anything yet. Not only because I wanted to give her the opportunity to tell me herself, but also I just kind of wanted to see how she was gonna move at this point. So time goes by. It's like 3 weeks that end up passing, and in those 3 weeks, like, she would text me here and there. She would give me calls and things like that. I was being very short with her over text messages, and I wasn't answering any of her calls. Kind of like hint, like, I know, like, go ahead and tell me. She never told me. So at this point, 3.5 weeks go by. It's now my husband's birthday. So we are having a party at our house. It was like a little game night. We invited friends over for like game night and drinks. So she ends up coming by herself. She does not bring her fiance on purpose. She came by herself. And again, he was invited, just like he was invited to the wedding. He was invited to this game night. She did not want him to come. So she's there. This is my first time seeing her since the wedding happens. And I'm kind of just seeing how she's acting because she's no dummy. I know that she had to have been like aware of the fact that I have been acting very weird. Like, we just went on a trip together for a week. Nothing went wrong on the trip. Like, we didn't have any type of arguments, any sort of disagreements or anything like that. So I had a feeling that she was wondering like what was going on. So again, I'm hoping that she uses this as her opportunity to tell me the truth. So the night goes on. We end up like having a good time. We're like having some drinks. We're playing games and stuff like that. She ends up laying down on my couch. The rest of everyone else is like pretty much still playing games. Like we have drinking games going. Like everybody's still hanging out. But like she ended up laying down on my couch. Keep in mind, the husband's friend is there, obviously. So I didn't think anything of it. She's laying down. She's asleep. I give her a blanket and then I go to my room. I go to lay down too. Everyone leaves. So the very next day I wake up, she's still there. She's at my house on my couch and I just could not take it anymore. So at this point, I'm ready to confront her. Okay. So I'm about to ask her, you know, if what I heard is true. So I sit on the couch with her. I'm like, hey, I heard something. She pretty much like gives a grin and she's like, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I tell her, you definitely know what I'm talking about. So she proceeds to tell me everything that went down. She tells me everything that I already knew. So what I have said up to this point, it is accurate. She confirms herself that what I was told is in fact true. However, there were details that were left out. So all of those nights spent putting together a wedding surprise, there were a lot of things that happened in the between time that caused the escalation of what happened on the wedding night. She very much so put herself out there. She very much so initiated everything, which is like even funny to think about. But yes, like this was all her. She wanted to do it. Yes, it happened. It's true. And I'm like, girl, like, why didn't you want me to know? Like, why didn't you tell me? Like, we could have kikied together. Like, it's just not that serious. And she was basically just like, well, I know that you would never think that I would do something like that, so I really just didn't want you to judge me. So I'm like, yeah. And also, like, she did say that it was my wedding day. What does she look like coming up to a new wife, like a bride, telling her how she just cheated on her fiance? So okay, I'm trying to hear her out. I really am. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, you were scared that I would judge you, so you didn't want me to know. Like, cool. I then ask her, like, does anybody know? She says no. She hasn't told a soul. Like, she hasn't told anyone, and she does not plan on telling anyone. So I then come clean and I let her know, like, hey, when I found out, I did tell our mutual best friend. I really needed somebody to talk to about it. I needed to tell somebody. And she was fine with it. Well, I'm not going to say she was fine with it. She clearly didn't want anybody to know, but she did understand that, like, what else am I going to do? It's no surprise that I tell our mutual best friend. So she's finishing off the details of everything that happened in Alaska. And then she goes, yeah, and then last night it just happened. Last night, keep in mind, we're at my house at this point. Last night was my husband's birthday. The party, yeah, she was the first one to sleep. I gave her a blanket, tucked her in, then I went to sleep myself. Last night, so at this point, my jaw is on the floor. I'm like, last night? What do you mean, like, what happened last night? And she then proceeds to tell me that when everyone went to sleep, like, she was in fact asleep, and she woke up like early morning, and it just happened. Now keep in mind, the night of this party, was the day before the day that she was supposed to go pick out her wedding band with her fiance. So as she's telling me this story the very next morning, she has to leave in 2 hours to go meet her man at the diamond store to pick out her wedding band. Yeah. So
Damn.
I'm listening to what happened. I'm very confused. At this point, it's kind of not funny anymore because I really did not want to be like caught up in it. I didn't want, because I'm a firm believer of what happens in the dark always comes to light. So I'm thinking it's really just a matter of time until somebody finds this out and it gets back to the fiance. So at this point, I'm like, girl, like, are you sure you know what you're doing? Like, it's getting kind of messy. And she was like, yeah, well, basically that's not all. When we got back from the trip, she also met up with him, and yeah. And not only that, when her fiance was out of town for one weekend, she was trying to get him to meet her at a church, leave his car, and take him to her house where she lived with her fiance. The house that he got for the two of them. Yeah. So at this point, I'm realizing that, like, oh, this wasn't just, like, this didn't just happen. Like, this wasn't an accident. Love is in the air. I'm at a wedding. I made a mistake kind of thing. Like, you really got something going on right now that I don't think that you know how to control. And she was basically saying that she really liked him. She didn't want to stop seeing him, but that she knew it was wrong and that she should stop seeing him. And I pretty much told her, like, yeah, girl, like, it is wrong. You probably really should stop, because at this point, my wedding was 6 months before hers. So in 6 months, you were supposed to be getting married to this person that you have cheated on 4 times now, on 4 different occasions, and you have kept this completely to yourself. And I'm like, how did this get past your fiance? Like, my man would be like, I would never be able to get away with that. So now I have a million more questions, and I'm just, anything that I thought before I had this conversation is now completely out the window, because I'm realizing that I thought I knew something, but I didn't know anything. So yeah, she ends up telling me all of that. She tells me that she's feeling guilty, she's this and she's that, but that she's gonna stop talking to him. She's gonna stop, and that she's done. So yeah, time goes on. To my understanding, which this is true, they did stop seeing each other, and it was mutual. So 3 months pass. And keep in mind, this is now 3 months before her wedding and 3 months after my wedding. It is now her fiance's birthday. The morning comes, which is our mutual best friend, she sends me a text like, hey, her fiance has me blocked. So my husband goes to check because he went to go tell her fiance happy birthday. He's blocked on everything. I go to check. I'm blocked on everything. Wait a minute. Does somebody know something? So now I call her and I'm like, hey, I think I'm missing something. Like, what's going on? All 3 of us are blocked by your man. Like what is it? What's up? Keep in mind, these past 3 months, like, I've pretty much talked to her very, very often, and I do have to put in here that me and this friend, we were like sisters, okay? We were not just regular friends. We were sisters, okay? We lived together at a certain point. I was very close with her family. We are very, very close friends. We've been friends for over 12 years at this point. Best friends, okay? She knows me so well. I think I know her so well. Like, this isn't just a random friend. And I feel the need to say that because there's people saying, well, why didn't you just invite somebody else if her fiance couldn't come? Where the fuck am I gonna pick another lifelong friend? it doesn't work like that. This is actually my real life, and there was real meaning behind me wanting her there. Not to mention, she is the reason that my fiance and I even met in the first place. So yeah, it was a lot of significance behind having her there. And again, we were best friends, and very much so like sisters. So yes, I call her and I'm like, yeah, obviously something's going on. Like, does he know? Like, what's good? She proceeds to tell me that 2 weeks ago, keep in mind, her and I have been talking in between these 2 weeks. We have been making plans to meet up and have a coffee date. Yeah. Okay, so she proceeds to tell me that 2 weeks ago, she was sitting down with him and they were having a movie night, and she just starts to feel so guilty out of nowhere 3 months later, after everything is said and done, as she's 3 months away from her own fucking wedding. She says that she felt so guilty that she just told him the truth. She told him everything. You gonna wait 3 months to tell this man the truth? You gonna wait until you 3 months away from your own wedding to tell this man the truth? So I'm like, what do you mean by you told him everything? She's like, I mean, I told him, you know, that it happened and that it happened more than once. But let me just say, there's no way she told him everything, because I haven't even told you guys everything, because everything is quite disgusting to the point where, like, I really don't even want to put everything out there. But just know, and you know who you are, you picked one of the dirtiest people to start a life with. So she's telling me all this, and I'm
He
like,
need to show himself, the husband.
okay,
stuff,
so why he
or the
block
fiance.
us? Because I didn't have anything to do with it. So now I'm asking her questions. I'm like, did you tell him that I didn't even know what was happening until it was all said and done and it was over? Like, I didn't even have anything to do with that. Not to mention that before we even went on the trip, I specifically asked you not to do this. And I was checking you on the trip, telling you that you were being real friendly and you might want to stop before you send the wrong message. But obviously the whole time, that is the message that she was wanting to send. And I firmly believe from the moment she laid eyes on that man, she knew that she wanted him. She knew she wanted him, and she had been plotting and plotting all week to get what she had wanted. Not to mention that she had been talking about our mutual best friend with this guy. Keep in mind, they had dealings with each other in the past. And she's talking about our mutual best friend, trying to boost her own head up, trying to make her feel good, like, oh, I have something that she had, but I'm better. You're not better. You're bottom of the barrel, okay? Bottom of the barrel. So I'm asking her, does he know that none of us knew anything about it? And our mutual best friend, I'm like really struggling as to like, what does she even have to do with anything? Like, she only knows because I told her. Like, why is she blocked? And basically she just proceeds to tell me that she did tell him that none of us had anything to do with it, that we didn't even know that it was going on, yada, yada, yada. So then I follow up with, okay, so why is he mad at us? Like, the only thing we're guilty of, I guess, is knowing. Did he expect us to run and tell him? And she goes, no, he's just embarrassed. Like, I just think he doesn't want to see you guys because it's embarrassing. And then she proceeds to tell me that when I posted my wedding photos, it triggered him. So he just couldn't see that anymore. So now my wedding is tied up in this messiness. And here is where I get mad. Okay? I wasn't mad before. I didn't give a damn about what she was doing. Now I'm mad because you took my one day. Like, you couldn't give me 1 day. And that's the type of person that this girl is. She can't stand not being the center of attention. And if she feels like she's not the center of attention, you better believe she's gonna make herself the center, just like she did. So at this point, I'm pissed because I'm like, so now my wedding day has to be tied up into this BS that I didn't have anything to do with, nor did I even want it to happen. Like, my one day, you just couldn't even give me that. Like, And now I'm just feeling like, wow, this is really unfair. I'm feeling crazy for ever giving her the benefit of the doubt. Like, I realize just how low of a person she is in this very moment. So at this point, I'm just like, this is insane. Like, this is actually crazy right now. Like, what were you thinking when you decided to blurt out to him what happened, but you have told the truth about everything? Because there's no way, and I mean, I would think now, I mean, he's seeming kind of crazy at this point, but there's no way she told that man the whole truth, because I don't see how he would be able to live with himself if he knew the whole truth and he still decided to stay with her. Because the whole truth? Nonetheless, she did end up like finishing it off with like, look, I do think that like these feelings will go away. He doesn't blame you guys. He knows that you guys had nothing to do with it. I do think that he's going to get over it. So that was pretty much the end of the conversation. She said that things are really bad with them. He basically didn't really want anything to do with her at that moment. Kicked her out, all the things. But 2 weeks later, he then asked her to come back. So she's like, yeah, I think that he's going to get over it. Like, I think everything's going to be fine. I'm like, is he still going to marry you? Like, are you guys still getting married? And she's like, yeah, like we haven't called anything off yet. But then she's like, but in 2 weeks, we're supposed to fly out of state to go celebrate our engagement with his family. So I don't know how that's going to work. They ended up going, spoiler. But, so anyway, nonetheless, she's like, yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Like, I think that he's going to get over it. And keep in mind, at this point, we are like 2 weeks away from her bridal shower and like a month away from her bachelorette trip, which we had already paid for. Myself and our mutual best friend, we already got our flights. We already paid for the Airbnb, the rental, everything's like paid for already. So obviously I have questions because I'm kind of like, is he gonna get over it? And then on the other hand, I'm also like, I don't even know if I want to go to that wedding. Like, I don't even know if I want to see him. Like, you've made it awkward for everybody. So anyway, her and I get off the phone. I then call our mutual best friend. I'm like, girl, this is what's going on. I don't really know what's gonna happen. She doesn't have all the answers right now. I'm trying to give her space, like, to, you know, figure things out, because I know that this is a lot and I'm trying to be understanding of her situation. And just even hearing myself say that, it's just like, I was too understanding of her situation. Way too understanding, and she was so undeserving of it. Nonetheless, time goes on, we're chit-chatting and everything. She's checking in with me, telling me that things are getting better, that they're starting therapy together, and that she thinks that like everything's gonna be fine. So I'm like, okay, like I guess he's accepting what she did as a mistake. Keep in mind, like, she tells me that she tells him she did everything that she did because she was bored with him, which is exactly what she told me. Because before she even admitted to him what had happened, myself and our mutual best friend were both telling her that we felt bad for him because he's actually a good guy, and she proceeded by telling me that he's boring, all of his friends are dweebs, her exact words, and that basically she's bored. So she was kind of like, yeah, I feel bad, but he's boring. So yeah, at this point, things are looking real rocky for our friendship. I'm very much so like in between emotions. I don't really know how I feel about it. I do know that I have money tied up in this trip coming up the following month. I do know that I have an unrefundable flight that I already booked for this bachelorette trip next month. So I'm kind of just like, let me just see what happens. Like, I don't really know what happens, but I'm already feeling like I don't even want to go to this wedding because I don't even want to be around her man and his family. And I did tell her, like, if anything, I would need to see her man before this wedding and kind of talk to him first, because I don't want my first time seeing him after all this to be at your wedding, because this is just crazy as hell. So a week or two goes by, and myself and our mutual best friend, we're both talking. We're both like, we don't even know if we want to go to this wedding. Like, we don't even know how we feel about this. And I was like, well, girl, for all we know, we're probably uninvited. Like, think about what's happened. Like, he's probably uninvited us. And like, I really don't even blame him, especially because she already told us that, which I don't think this is true. I definitely think he blamed us because he needed to be able to rationalize staying with this girl. He had to have known how ridiculous he is for continuing to be with someone that's capable of doing these things right before you get married. So he had to be able to blame us. He couldn't blame her because he wanted to be with her. So he had to blame us because that was the only thing that made sense. So here we are a week before her bridal shower. And I end up sending her a text because I haven't heard anything from her in regards to like the wedding. She has been like randomly texting me here and there, like giving me updates on their relationship and stuff. So yeah, I end up texting her and I'm like, hey, like, you know, obviously I have to ask because it's just weird. Like, does he even want us at the wedding? Like, what is going on? Like, at this point, I just want her to be straight up. Like, just tell me the truth. So this is what she ends up saying after that.
She says, okay, so I was reading and thinking, and I want you to know I love you and appreciate you. Our friendship, she got that. Myself only place blame on me. I take full responsibility for what I chose to do. I made horrible decision and acted on something that has hurt more people than I could have ever imagined, and continuing to hurt people by not having all of the answers. If there is anything I've learned about all of this, is that I have to put something first. And the reality is he is uncomfortable with you and so being at the wedding. Us all hanging out solo or at the batch trip, and then the bridal shower in August has his sister and mom there. And I think that would also feel awkward. There are some things out of our control, like taking back what I did, but other things are in his control, like respecting him with where he currently is in his feelings, him blocking the people that knew because he feels betrayed, us going to therapy and church, me keeping my phone open for him. He blaming everybody but the person who cheated on him.
Yeah.
Oh, she said, this was never an intention, truly consequences of my own actions. Please don't feel like you need to respond tonight or tomorrow or at all until you're ready. We can also talk on the phone if you want to. I know there is probably so many feelings from all sides and I am sorry for it all. I'm going to send you this so that everyone on a similar page. She sent her $337. I'm also assuming this is the top of mine as well. This is a $337 for the Airbnb, and the flight could be credited back to the account for later use. Well, at least she gave her money back. I mean, but damn, like she's still letting her husband, her fiance, blame the friends for something that she did, which clearly the friend told her not to do. So I'm getting where this is going. Yeah.
So at this point, I don't even know what the word is to describe what I was feeling. Like, it wasn't shock. It was almost, I think it was just like, did she really say that? Because for someone who really wishes only her and her therapist knew, you sure were doing it at my house and telling that person specifically not to tell me. So not only were you thinking that you were getting over on me, you felt comfortable enough to do it in my home, and yet in that same breath say, but don't tell her. What is going on right now?
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, she knew for weeks before she said something that he felt this way. And she waited up until her very first bridal event to finally tell us the truth. So this is what I said. So she goes and sends that exact same text, like copy and paste it, that I showed earlier to our mutual best friend. And as you see, that was on April 2nd. And she did not say a word after that. Before she sent that text, when her and I had that phone conversation, when she told me that her fiance knew everything, she also told me that they weren't going to tell any of his friends, and they weren't going to tell any of her other friends that were in her bridal party, because again, they didn't want anybody to know. And she said that it was important to her that they looked like a power couple. So yeah, that was the last of it. That was the last thing she said. She sent both of us back our money. And she basically got away with it. I mean, no one ended up finding out. She was able to do all of the events all the while. Like, I mean, we were in a whole group chat with everyone before. Like, she's not telling anyone the truth about what happened as to why me and the other best friend aren't at all of these events. So yeah, we really have no idea what her narrative has been and what she's been putting out up to this point. But they did end up getting married. So yeah, I mean, it occurred to me that this person was able to do all of this and turn my wedding day into some big disaster, like I said. And that was just unfair to me. And I just didn't feel like it was fair that she would get to do that and yet still have her cake and eat it too.
So that's why she's telling the story.
I just decided to tell the story.
There you go.
So yeah, moral of the story is, I guess I have no idea who that was that I invited to my wedding.
What it do, everyday people, man? It's your boy PJ. Today we back with another lit video. We back in the confessional, and yes, we stay in lit, big dog, man. Shout out to my everyday people who rock with me every day. Shout out to my player partner, Lucky Wheels and Deals. He keeps it lit. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. Man, hit the link down below. We got HiveMindLabs.com, and if you use the discount code everydaypj, you will save at checkout. Get that super fat burners, okay? All right. Now let's get into it, big dog. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. Whew. Now, I'm not gonna say she was the best storyteller, but I mean, I guess it was kind of interesting. I had to get to the end to figure out why she was telling this story, and I know why, because she felt slighted that her friend did all this on her birthday event. And then when she got caught she didn't get caught. She told on herself from her husband to her fiance or whatever. She blamed them, and now it seems like to her it's like, wow, you turned my wedding day, my wedding week into this sex escapade, this adulterous weekend that you had, and I told you specifically not to do it. Now, at first I was thinking, yeah, you just a nosy friend. Just stop being a hater and let her get it, because like obviously she not happy with the guy. So what's going on? Like, she sees something, she want to take the chance, the opportunity. Now her taking the opportunity and going back and even bringing the dude to his house, I know for a fact she didn't tell him that part, and that's why she told this story, because she want them to know that that woman brought another man into her and her fiance's house, and the fiance don't know, and he ended up blocking her. And yes, she did blame y'all. She didn't tell y'all she blamed y'all, but from the husband blocking y'all, she blamed y'all. She told all y'all, or y'all all knew from something, and y'all don't owe no loyalty to him, but she does. So that's why she put it on y'all, and he blocked y'all because he feel like y'all, he had to place some blame on somebody other than her, which is some sucker stuff. But whatever. That's crazy. I get it. I don't get it, but I get it. But him going back to her, that's why she was like, you marrying the nastiest woman. She know more secrets about that girl. She just ain't telling them all. She just telling them why they not together. But that girl done some stuff. She knew that girl was a cheater by the way she was talking to her. Like, no, listen, you can't be doing this. But why bring a person on a trip and put them in that situation? Because you know what? The fact that she left her husband on purpose lets me know all more of what's going on. She didn't want that. She wanted to cheat. She wanted to get it out one last time before she was locked down forever. And I don't know how good that coochie is, but it's good enough for the guy to go back 4 times. And it's also good enough for a man to understand, like, man, it's good. I just had to let somebody else have it before I married it because ain't nobody else gonna get it. Ain't nobody else gonna get it. So yeah, the friend is a dirtbag. Now, this girl's rightfully so, she has a reason to be upset. But again, sometimes you gotta let your friends just be who they are. You can't change them for me. It was something else that I wanted to I also elaborate on, but you know, with everything else that happens in the story, you just kind of forget. But she also, like, it's really the friend. Like, the friend is a dirtbag. She knew she was a cheater. She's probably done it before. Yeah. Everyday people, let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'm gonna holler at you later. Peace.
Day and night. For some women, it can start working in as quick as 1 week.